inside B1 building code. So if you download the B1 building code, I'm not going to do it. You guys can have a look at it in your own free time, and you can see at the start of it, there will be a whole lot of different standards for different things, right? So that's really what I'm trying to point out to you. All right, so that one there. So the standard we use in New Zealand is NZS 3604. All right, so the book for light construction, and if I am lucky, I've already got it on my screen. But yeah, so it's is anybody ever seen NZS 3604?
No.
Ah, here it is. Good. All right. So I know I've talked a lot about it and I haven't introduced you to it. I apologize for that, but here we go. Okay. So this is the New Zealand standard for timber framed homes. Okay. So we can have a further discussion about this later. That was the old one, 1999, and the new one is 2011. And it's basically got the scope and bracing and everything that's related to it. And it's not for those other houses that we just saw. It is for timber framed buildings. Okay, so that's what that relates to. Yep, and we can go into that so you guys can get a better understanding, and you will, because all of the houses that you will choose will be timber 3604 timber frames, so we'll get a bit of an understanding on what it means. And the last one, what have I got? Yes. So yeah, in B1 AS1, there is block buildings as well. So you've probably come across houses that are built out of block. So again, the structure can be block. Doesn't have to be framing. Now, the other interesting thing is you could have the NZS 3604 upstairs, then you could have block work downstairs, or you could have block work downstairs and you could have tri-board upstairs. You could have block work downstairs and you could have tilt-up slab, right? So there's a mixture. So when people are trying, sorry, dropping and changing there we go, that's better for you, sorry. But yeah, so you can basically have a block building like so, but you can have a steel frame on top, or you can have a timber frame on top, or you can do something like that. So when you get into more complex buildings, there might be a mixture of, so the word they use and the word we use is compliance pathways. All right. So really, I think that's the point that I want to make, is that don't be fooled. We have helped you and given you a simple opportunity for a simple home, not too confusing, but it gets very, very complex the moment you start to introduce a whole lot of different ways that your building might comply to the code. So yeah, any questions about that?
Not now.
Okay, good.
Yes, complying pathway, is it like taking more procedure, or is it just different?
So yeah, good word, good question. So it is actually the wording that a council will use. What is the compliance pathway? So I saw on my screen, give me a second. There it is here. Here we go, it might help me. Let's have a look. So you think of the triangle that we've been showing you. So when the council asks that question, what's the compliance pathway? It is essentially, is it an acceptable solution? Is it a verification method? Is it what actually is it what that the product that's being used? So there would, like I said to you, the more complex the house, the more complex the compliance pathway would be, right? And the more involved you might have an engineer. So when I showed you a book like this, 3604, that helps me as a builder to build everything that needs to be built on a house. It's got floors, it's got walls, it's got how to build a foundation, it's got how to do bracing, and it's got roofs. Okay, doesn't have any cladding. See, it says here roof and cladding, but if I press on that, you watch this. Weather tightness, the durability of closed timber frames outlined in 3604 requires effective installation of roof and claddings, and it's not part of the standard. The standard is about structure, but the point being is you talked about a compliance pathway for a simple house like we're discussing, like Fallow Street. The compliance pathways are fairly simple. So you've got an issue, you've got a structure. Every building has a structure, right? And so therefore it's got to be a B code. So B1, B2, every building has to endure the weather. It's got to last for 50 years. All right. So what the council are asking is, what is your compliance pathway to build that house, right? You want to build a house and you want to use, I don't know, computer design, cladding or system or whatever. Therefore, the compliance pathway for that is not written down in a book that everybody can use. It just happens to be the engineer's designed one specifically for that job, right? That's where it gets expensive, because every job's different. So obviously, just like my little dream of having a square house and a concrete tile roof, in a roundabout way, that's what 3604 is as well. 3604 tells you how to build a house. So the compliance pathway is really asking you, please tell us what you're doing. That's the difference between a performance building code and a predictive building code. So I apologize for bleating for so long, but you can still just ask again.
You was mentioned about the yesterday about American standard or other standard. Is it belong to this type? Like if they prefer to use American standard to build the house, so they will become the compliant pathway.
Exactly, you're onto it. Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you. Yep. So exactly. So the compliance pathway is the American standard. Then if they have been able to achieve what is required, then in essence that's cool. So yeah, let's just, and that's why that's one way of being more cost effective. Why is that? Is because I'm a construction company owner and I'm wanting to sell a house. I don't have to necessarily, if I can use an American approved standard, then essentially the government now is agreeing with the engineers' chartered way that they train their engineers, or it's the same in Britain. The government are now saying that they agree with the British engineering standards and the people that write these standards. Whereas in the past, and it's still actually current, remembering the law hasn't changed yet, you would have to get a local engineer to have a look at that standard and then write a PS1 and a PS4 in New Zealand. So therefore, if you did sue them, you're able to sue them on New Zealand soil. Whereas the risk they have at the moment with the new idea is there's no local engineer, there's no what is the interconnection with the law if something goes wrong and they're based in America or in Britain. You know, I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know whether the New Zealand government know or have they just turned a blind eye to that. Not that I don't disagree with the concept, but you know, yeah. Okay, Diggly. All right, so I'm going to go and start my PowerPoint. I hit, where was I there? So yesterday we finished off with the C code, which is fire. And I'll just show you guys what I'm doing so you guys can do it later. Sorry, there. Okay, so remember that was discussing with someone yesterday. I can't teach you all of the information and all of the stuff. If you can imagine a pizza, right? The topic, for example, that you're looking back on the screen there is the whole pizza as the best I can do in the sense of creating, because I created the information, I put it in there. So, you know, and so the pizza is all of that information, and there's a lot of information in there. Okay, right? The slice of the pizza, to find out whether you understand actually the topic, and that's what assessments are, that's only a slice of the pizza. If you can imagine, there's a whole lot of other stuff that we can do and a whole lot, but we don't choose to do that because that would be really unfair. So we only ask a slice of the information. So there's another thing that goes on which we're not allowed to do, but we do sometimes as lecturers, is that we teach to the assessment, right? So I teach you only the slice of the pizza, not the whole pizza. So I do that, and that's just natural because I don't want to be unfair with you as students. So just be aware that when you click on the history of building, there's I don't know how many parts here. So you can see down on the left-hand side here, all of the different parts, how you read the legislation, how the law is made, New Zealand government, the Building Act, the HUN report, right? So that's a whole lot. So there's 11 different lessons just in that topic there. So there is plenty of reading and plenty of stuff that you can do to get more information. So I'm sure you all agree with me. So you know, I'm just talking to, but then the same deal here with the Building Act and the Building Code. So if I press on that, so really I'm sort of talking about this at the moment just to help you get some sort of founding understanding, a little bit about basically the Building Code. This is the sort of stuff that we're just discussing at the moment. All right, and so there's only 3 lessons in there, and you can go back and have a look at that, so as you can just remind yourself of what I'm talking about. And this is the heart of what we're talking about, which is this week. So I've set it up so you essentially this week, so next week we're going to talk about inspections, right? And then the following week we're going to talk about the certification of compliance of consents. Okay, so that's how I work with the program. So it is really up to you as students just to go through and read what you can in here. Part of it I've already used, part of it I haven't, but yeah, so what is there in there? So there is a range of different things just in the consenting, right? So don't feel like, so that's that, and I exit the course. So I'm going to go back to here. So what I've done is also added some stuff down in here. And so someone asked me, could I add the satisfied on reasonable grounds? I did that, dropped that PowerPoint in there for you. I think it's worthwhile us just having a look at this. I'll show you this now.
Sorry, where can I find it? I'm a bit sorry, I was trying to find it and I got lost.
Yep. Okay, so come back. So looking at in 401, interactive student course guide, this here. Yep, and then building consent application. Okay, and then down to content. Right, so just for what I'm talking about, just right now, I just downloaded this here, and that is this document here that Patrick's created. Talks about the work functions of what actually each staff member does at a council, and what is basically the regulated form and the section of the Building Act. So he's done this little thing here, what that might look like. So the work functions, self-explanatory. So there's 4 work functions within a BCA. So there's the BCA acceptance and vetting, and there it is there. That's the acceptance, and that's really your role. That's what we're teaching you about, but we're also giving you an exposure to these other items here. All right, processing, inspections, and code compliance. Right, remembering that okay, this point here, that is the Reg 18, Regulation 18 in the building accreditation regulations. That's that function. All right. So, yep, but there's other. So after a building consent application is received, it's complying with the building code. So I'm not going to waste my time reading it. I'm going to just point you guys to have a look at that and have a understanding of what's going on. We're up to here at the moment, just doing this stuff here, and essentially the Form 5, the assessment, so processing and the assessment. So you guys are going to be exposed as students basically to the processing and the granting. There's not going to be, unless I can get an opportunity to go to a site, but we're at Christmas time, so it may not be able to get out onto a building site to do a site visit, to do inspections, and we can spend a bit of time doing the certification part as well on consenting. So that's basically what that's about. All right. And so, yep. So that's what I was teaching this the other day, quantitative. That's Patrick's one there. And what else we got? Yeah, and that's the one I did the other day, Whangarei District Council and classified uses. Right, so what I'm gonna, let's just keep going back I'm up to the building code, and I'm up to building code C. So let's go to E and F. Let's just quickly run through that. Okay, and I'll just put myself as a reporter. Yep, okay, it's a bit better. So can anybody off the top of their head tell me what the building code E represents?
Moisture.
Moisture, exactly. Moisture outside the building coming in, moisture inside the building staying in, and moisture on the driveway and staying within the section environment, right? So you've got yourself E1, E2, and E3. Protect people from and other property from the adverse effects of surface water from the penetration of water. So talks about the possibility of reducing undue dampness, damage, degradation of the building elements, condensation, and fungal growth. Okay, so surface water, disposal of rainwater from external surfaces and conformation surface water entering a building. Okay, so it is to do with the driveway. It is to do with accessing, so keeping the water off the back of a retaining wall and going into a drain on a building site. If you just allow me 2 seconds to try and find that fallow street, I can show you a plan as we go. That means I can point to the plan and show you what it might actually look like in real terms. All right, so just give me a second, team. Oh. My computer, the people that accounts my work basically wanted me to update forget it. Okay, I'm going to keep moving. All right, so the so E1 is really, if you look at if you look at any driveway, outside of a driveway, you will see a cesspit. You will see where water is managed and controlled on a cesspit. All right, so that's what they're talking about there. E1. Okay, so E2. E2 AS1, that's a big building code. External roof, wall claddings, causing undue dampness and damage. So this clause requires buildings to be constructed to provide adequate resistance to penetration and the accumulation of moisture from outside. It contains requirements for roofs, wall claddings, and external openings. It prevents water entry, prevents water absorption, and prevents the accumulation of water, allowing for dissipation, right? The clause applies to most buildings as set out in the application, right? So you have to prove when you're building a building that you actually have a proper compliance pathway for E2, okay? And most of the time it's E2 AS1, and then there's another word which maybe we've discussed, or James has discussed with you. It's called an alternative solution. So it's an alternative way of doing it. So E2 AS1. I'll just write here, explain alternative. Has anybody heard the word alternative solution? Okay, so therefore nobody's heard the word alternative solution.
No, you mentioned before.
Okay.
Today.
All right, so but I guess you've heard the word, but do you know what it means? I guess that's the question, I guess. But that's fine. If you don't understand it, I can repeat myself again. There's 7, so I'm not going to talk about it right now, but I've got it written down here, and we'll make sure that we have a look at that so as you can understand it. Right, so then you have the E3 code. So the E3 building code, that's about bathrooms, laundries, kitchens, and provisions are to require thermal resistance, space, temperature, ventilation, disposal of overflow water, surfaces to be impervious and easily cleaned. So think of your bathroom, think of your shower, think of the tiles. Behind those tiles is a waterproofing paint or a product. In my circumstance, I've got a vinyl. It's actually a vinyl, and then I lay tiles over the vinyl. So it's very, very good and resists the buildup of water. So yeah, so every house has to have a way that it deals with E3. And most of the time that's done by waterproofing bathrooms and protecting them from getting wet. Okay, so there was a little bit of a conversation about this one, which is the F codes. So F code, safety of users and safeguards people from injury and illness. So the different clauses of the F code is about construction, it's about demolition, it's about building materials, it's about substances, it's about safety from falling, it's about ensuring visibility in an escape route if it's a commercial building, and that buildings have warning systems and that they have signs. Now, in a commercial situation, and you probably have been to the mall, you've been to the library, you've been to the university, and there will be signs there, and they all basically have compliance based on the code F, and I think it might be F8 for signs. So F2, sorry, F1, right? F1 is hazardous agents, hazardous substances. And a lot of residential houses don't have this issue of hazardous substances. Okay, and I have a place that I can show you in relation to hazardous substances. All right, but potential toxicity of hazards and contaminants still sitting in the ground. You're building in a new subdivision, and there is the possibility that insecticides are still sitting in the ground from when the building site used to be a market garden. Yeah, things like that. Okay, so that's what F1 is about. F2 is to do with safety of glass. So that's the one where you have to make sure that the glass is not going to break. It breaks into little squares, so it doesn't break like normal glass. So, yep. Is there been some sort of evidence in the consented plans that the glass is safe in the bathrooms, in the showers? Okay, and that normally is a safety standard, and it's they use a New Zealand standard 4223. So the 4223 is the set of rules, the set of guidance that guides the glass manufacturer about how to actually have a safe environment for glass. Okay, so Metro Glass is the company, or one of the many companies. Okay. The other one that you'll see on the screen there is the word asbestos, and we had that discussion, ongoing discussion with my mother-in-law's site. So, yep, you've got to make sure that you have mitigated, reduced, or eliminated any chance that there's asbestos on the building site. Okay. Right. So F4, again, it's the are you in the business of storing hazardous materials? Clause confirms there's adequate protection to people and property where hazardous substances are stored. So it provisions relate to restricting zones, preventing contamination, and the safe release of pressure, protection against ignition, and the means to render hazards harmless. It requires impervious, easily cleaned surfaces on the building elements likely to be splashed. So F3. So my experience with that was as a boy working in a hardware store in Howick when I was younger. Basically, they have a concrete bunker, and the concrete bunker was 4 inches thick. It had a steel door. And inside the concrete bunker was the turpentine, the methylated spirits, the white spirits, and they were all in big 40-gallon drums. And every Monday morning, my job was to go into that concrete bunker and fill up the new bottles of terps or white spirits and stuff like that, because we'd sold so much on the weekend. But it's not acceptable to have those highly flammable cans of spirits exposed, just in case someone walked past with the smoke and just threw it and blew everything up. So by having them inside a concrete bunker, that was how F3 in that situation would have been resolved. From the perspective of residential, more than likely what they would call a limit on application. There's no need for it because people don't do this sort of thing. We don't store petrol at home, do we? All right, safety from falling. Okay, safe design of all barriers inside and outside the building. Barriers where people could fall more than 1 meter. Provisions include barriers for roofs, for permanent access. So often you will see commercial buildings, you'll see barriers and protection on it for people who work up on the roof, who do checking on the roof. January 7th, 2017, there was an amendment to the Pools Act, and it deleted the clauses for swimming pool barriers. So that became part of another code called F9. So yeah, it went from just Swimming Pools Amendment Act of 2016 changed that. Okay, so F5 is construction and demolition hazards. Every building site has this, so therefore it needs to be ticked. Right. Clause ensures the construction, the demolition provides a likelihood of objects falling onto people or on or off the site and other hazards. For example, it prevents the unauthorized entry of children to hazards on sites and requires barriers to restrict public access and provide a safe route. Right, so in some circumstances, especially commercial, you would need to consider F5 as a code. Okay. F6 ensures basically that there is an escape route, and that there is a reasonable lighting for the escape route, and it applies in buildings that have risk groups and particular locations, such as dangerous machinery or a part of the escape route designed for use at any time by more than 250 people. Right, so it's not a residential solution. This is a commercial code. So there needs to be escape routes, and it needs to be visible. Okay, warning systems, F7. This clause ensures buildings are provided with appropriate means of warning people to escape to a place in an emergency. It requires systems that require adequate time for people to reach the safe place, for fire detection or in household units, and appropriate fire for warning for fire and emergencies. Right, so F8. Yep, so F7, that there's the smoke alarms as well. So you would need as a staff member to tick that. And then double check on the consented plans that there's evidence of a smoke alarm. Right, does anybody know the rules related to where a smoke alarm is supposed to be?
In the kitchen?
Nope.
In front of the bedroom?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's not less than 3 meters.
Exactly. Yep. And so a smoke alarm is designed to like alert basically people who are in a sleeping zone, so within 3 meters of the sleeping zone, and also on the way out of the house. So there might be one in the entranceway. And when I think about my house here, we just had one come the other day. I've done one on my rental. Just double checked it, and also probably I sort of have one on the way out the door, but it's a little bit further back. So you've got to have, and also they changed the rules probably a few months ago, where they're interconnected. There's the possibility that they can all be interconnected. So if one goes off, all of them go off. Right. So whereas in the past it was just one goes off, but normally it's pretty loud anyway, and my dogs don't like them. Go crazy. Right. Provide identification on escape routes. So F8, hazards, emergency safety features, and accessible facilities. So I always imagined that actually the F8 signs, and that's it, right? And I thought that's going to be for commercial only. It's going to be for schools. It's going to be for hospitals. But there's a couple of circumstances that I can think of in a residential situation where you would need to have a signage. Has anybody been to the beach before and gone to a toilet at the beach?
Yeah.
And do you see a sign there sometimes when the water, it says water not drinkable?
Yeah, seen those signage before.
Yeah. So in a situation, in a residential situation, so there is this, and I'll write it on the screen. So there is this thing on water. So water has a word called potable and non-potable. So potable means essentially it's safe to drink, and non-potable means it's not safe to drink. So when you're possibly going to wash your hands at the beach, in some circumstances, it's what they call non-potable water supply. So in a residential home, you can have a non-potable water supply. So Stonefields down in Marua Road is a great example of having a non-potable water supply. And so what happens is there's a sign next to the tap in a residential situation that says, do not drink, right? So there's still, so all of the water, when you see the water pipe is purple, like that purple there, you know that there's a non-potable water supply. So what actually happens is it rains, the water goes into detention tanks, and those detention tanks, they basically, or retention tanks, should I say, they retain the water, and then they feed that water to the laundry tub, to the toilets, to the toilet bowls, and to the garden hose, right? But there's a separation between the potable and non-potable water supply. So that potable water supply uses a blue pipe, and this one here uses a purple pipe in a residential circumstance, right? So I mean, you might have that in a commercial sense as well. There might be some hotels that might choose to have a water supply for their toilets or laundry on top of the roof or something like that, and drain so therefore there would be these, but that's where you would have a situation where you would have the signage in a residential home, but most of the time it's commercial. All right. The other circumstance where I would find you might have a sign is it's called an on-site wastewater system. So in a normal circumstance within a city environment, you have a thing called sanitary sewer pipes. So you use the toilet, and all of the waste from that toilet goes to the sanitary sewer pipes and goes to, in our situation, probably Mangere Bridge. All right. On the North Shore, there's a big pond there on the motorway. That's a special pond for your sanitary sewer. Okay. So in a residential situation that has an on-site water treatment plant, okay, so we are talking about someone who's got 5 acres of land, who's got 10 acres of land, but is in the country and does not have sanitary sewer or sanitary sewer on the side of the road that they can hook into. They have to create their own water treatment plant on the land. So there's this whole, it's a big area. It's 50 meters long pipes, and there's a whole system involved. And often the machine is actually connected to the house. So you might drive into the garage and there will be a pump there, and there's a light and more than likely a sign that says that this here is the pump, and this is basically something that you need to service every year from a third-party plumber or drain layer. And basically you need to have that serviced, and there's a light that flashes if it's not being serviced, but it's backed up by a sign that says that this is a special pull or on-site system, right? Cool. All right, so yep, then this, so we'll go back to that. So arrays. Nice. Okay, so the final code for F9 is restricting access to residential pools, right? And I talked about that a little bit earlier, right? And this was based on 2017, the Building Pools Amendment Act repealed the Fencing Act of and inserted new provisions into the Building Act. Okay. So, yep. So it was it beefed up the code F9. All right. So this clause is a requirement to prevent unsupervised access by children of 5 years old to a pool. It requires barriers around pools to restrict unsupervised. Barriers can include gates, suitably constructed doors, and some heated pools, spa pools. There's a list of how high the pool is supposed to be. There is a requirement for what type of words are supposed to be sitting on top of basically the pool, how the font is, what you're supposed to do about the lockability, where the sign is supposed to be. I mean, it's intense, man. So yeah, so that's the F9 building code. So yep, cool. All right, so just give me a sec. I'll just pop and have a cup of coffee, okay? And I'll try and find this consented plan too. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience.
Thank you, Carl. Yeah.
Thank you.
Relax your coffee time.
Cute coffee time. Cute dog. Yeah, all right, I'll be back in a second.
哎，我接了个电话，现在是休息了吗？
现在在休息，在咖啡时间。
哦，thank you，thank you。
啊，不客气。
Okay, everybody's back. So someone asked, do you mean a portaloo? Yeah, not a portaloo, but I do mean a septic tank. Yeah, as a as something that might be on a country estate, a section 5-acre block. Yeah. I was just trying to find a house, so that's got some plans and shows a little bit of connects essentially what I'm talking about. Connects, I apologize using that word essentially. Connects, and it's the crux, it's the core of what I'm discussing. I can discuss with you about the E code and the F code and all that. That's fantastic. But if you cannot see the connection between the idea and the concept of what that means in relation to a set of plans, I think that's where it's difficult for you to understand. So I found a set of plans in Queenstown, 33 Corridale Road in Jacks Point. So if you look at the screen, you can see that's the house that we're dealing with there. So it's a Hippo construction or Hippo design. So then I will bring over that set of plans there for you. So this is the set of plans from that job. Okay, so where I was just a second ago, I'm on that road there, looking in across at this house. So that's the house that we're talking about. Okay, so the next question is, how does, for example, the F code or the E1 code relate to these sets of plans? So here's the application here that this person has done, and you can see this list. So we talked earlier this morning about the fact, what is the document that is submitted for an application for building consent or PIM? There it is there, Form 2. So the customer, and in this circumstance, the customer's agent, who happens to be this guy, Justin, from Hippo Design Group, I think it's Justin, and he's a designer, and he fills this out. And what it does is it explains, as you can see up here, the word, what's your means of compliance? What is the way, how are you answering the building code clause? That's the clause, the building code clause, and then there's these ways of answering each of those clauses. So we talk about B1 structure, and he's saying B1 AS1. So therefore, I should be able to look at these consented plans, and I tell you that somewhere in the acceptable solution, the set of rules, there will be something there, but he's also got a verification method as well. So there might be something that requires some sort of engineering design on the structure. That might be the slab. I don't know what that might be, but if we look at the set of plans, and also from a processing perspective, you know, the client might get it wrong. So you're always going to find out anyways, and it doesn't matter if you get it wrong, if they get it wrong, because from a processing perspective, you're going to find out whether they get it wrong, and so you can fix it. So it doesn't matter. All right, they're just sort of, from council's perspective, and I'd say the government's perspective, it's just supporting the architect and maybe the homeowner to understand what it means. What does that mean? A means of compliance. It sort of forces you, and hand on heart, so this whole system didn't exist in 1992 when I was doing 93, doing consenting plans and stuff like this. And there was a very, very basic question answer exercise when I was building, and over the years it's become a lot more intense and a lot more broad. All right, so B1 AS1, and I'm suggesting to you that probably it's a timber frame building. So let's just have a quick look and see if we can see something. So doesn't seem at the moment like looking there. I'll just reduce that too for you. There we go. Sometimes you might see down below, you can see here, materials used, floor, reinforced concrete, framing, SG8 H.2 treated to New Zealand standard, okay? But you might see NZS 3604 2011 written in there, right? And then you sort of can automatically go, oh, that's why they've called it B1 AS1, because 3604 is the pathway for to be used for housing. So let's just keep going down. You might find, so obviously it's the claddings, you're not going to see it. You're not going to see the pathway with the plumbing and a drain laying, but you might see it with the framing. So that type of thing that you're seeing there, so the wording H1.2, that's the treatment, okay? SG8 is the structure, special grades, stress graded 8, and then 90 by 45 at 400 centimeters. That is pure 3604, all right? But I'd like to actually see the word, but we will find out. "17 pages, 18 pages, concrete slab, jib board. But I know the pathway is 3604. You got bottom plate, you got cavity, and the point really is, I mean, as a newbie like you guys, until you're exposed to 3604, it's not going, you know, if I saw that as steel frame, or I saw it as bricks or block or something, then I'd know it's another pathway. Anyway, I could just see that. So all he says is the word framing, okay? But normally you would have somewhere where it would say a compliant to NZS 3604 2011. So just watch your eyes for a second. I'm just going to go all the way back. It might be sort of sitting steps, floor plan details. It doesn't really define it. Okay, all right. The next thing that we talked about, so that's B1. So then we had this, remember we talked about smoke alarms? So we talked about F7 warning systems. There it is there, F7, and they've said F7 AS1. All right. Okay, so we should be able to, and I just saw it, smoke alarm, see there? Smoke alarm with a hush, right? So that what you're looking for on the set of plans is that little thing there. So then we come to there. Oh, there it is. That's one there. So we talked about 3 meters of the sleeping zone. So within 3 meters, bedroom 1, and 3 meters of bedroom 2. So you can see that red line. They've already defined the 3 meters. So technically under the F7 acceptable solution, it complies, right? So the smoke alarm. So then I need to go, there's another one, okay? And there's your 3 meter boundary thing, and there's another one, okay? Catches that bathroom, bedroom, okay? And it catches this bedroom. You don't normally, well, you don't want a smoke alarm in the kitchen because you might be burning the steak or something like that and it goes off. So you just don't want it in there, okay? So it's not designed, the rules don't tell you to do that. So yeah, so that is how it looks. So down here, we talked about the F code when it came to the glass. All glazing will comply to NZS 4223. So that has a relationship to the hazardous possibility of glass breaking. So that's acceptable. So if I go back to here, I should be able to see hazardous materials. There it is, building materials F2 AS1. Right, so when you go to F2 AS1, it talks about basically, it says that if you use the rules in NZS 4223, then you will comply to F2 AS1. Okay. Down below further, there is lighting to be provided in all areas of the dwelling with at least 20 lux illumination. So lux is a measurement of light, all right? And it's as per G8. We haven't discussed G8 as a code, but so as you can see, right over here, there's the cladding, cedar, weatherboard, plywood, and batten. So let's just out of interest go to E2 AS1. So what this person is saying is that in E2 AS1, there is a way in this build that the builder can go to look at a set of rules on how to build cedar, weatherboards, plywood, board, and batten. Right, so it's set in the rules. So if it wasn't in the AS1, it could be an alternative solution. So you can see the option here. You see that word, alternative solution. Really, it's as simple as this. If it's not in the acceptable solution in black and white, so in E2 AS1, you get to be able to build using that book with plaster, solid plaster, okay? Polystyrene, would you believe? Corrugated iron, timber weatherboards, plywood, and flat fibrillite. Hardy flex it's called. Okay, so anything else that's not what I just said becomes an alternative solution. That's it. That's as simple as it is. If the way that a person has designed the head flashing detail doesn't look like the acceptable way of doing it in the book, and they've come up with another way, then it's called an alternative solution. And if it becomes an alternative solution, it becomes a debate that council wants pretty much to be very conservative and not be held to ransom and be sued for failure. So their natural bias is to go back to acceptable solution and reject your alternative solution. Okay? And alternative solutions can be based on past circumstances, historical circumstances. So building so the one that I always had a relation issue with was, and I didn't know how to deal with it, so I went back to my boss and We dealt with it in the way that he was comfortable with, and it was how you deal with head flashings on housing. So let's go there. Alternative. So the argument was, like in Ponsonby, or where I live in Epsom, or in Mount Eden, these houses around here have been around for 150 years. Okay? They don't leak. They have a different type of head flashing around the windows than is drawn in the book. Okay? So it doesn't make any sense to me. Why is that not drawn in the E2 AS1? You know, if it's so predominant in the market. So here's and I will drop this into here for you guys, into chat, so you can look at it in your leisure. Paste alternative solutions, right? So you can use historical reference as an argument. So you can go back to council and go, actually, my house is built in 1890. I want to I want to provide, I want the house to look the same. I don't want my new build to look different to the old. I'm doing an extension. So looking at the screen, you can do these different things and give evidence to the council and get them to basically agree with your alternative solution, but they don't have to agree. And it's always remembering an alternative solution is similar to in the sense of a determination, in the sense that it's specific to that site. Okay. So calculation test method, a comparison to another acceptable solution. So you remember we just talked earlier about the American and the British standard, right? So what the government are doing is they're turning the American and British standard into the acceptable solution pathway. But at the moment, I'll just mute the people here. Where am I?
302. 781.
Right. So comparison with a previous exception from another BCA, a comparison with an acceptable solution probably from overseas, a verification method, a trade literature, okay, an appraisal. So an appraisal is something that's done with the Building Research Association of New Zealand, with Opus, with Global SAI, with Global Mark, with Bureau Veritas. If you've got something that you want to bring to New Zealand, you can get an appraisal. Someone can make an assessment on it. Okay, there's that one I'm talking about, right? In-service history. So is there any proof that arises from the in-service history? For example, has the proposed material been used in a similar application on a similar site? Overseas evidence can be used, all right? But be mindful of the New Zealand conditions, our seismic activity, our ultraviolet light, and our exposure to salt-laden winds and wind-driven rain. So council will use those measurements. So let's just have a look. Earlier I had this one. Okay, sweet. Right, so yeah, you can use an alternative solution. You can use existing or historical reference. So I will bring that over there for you guys to see. So Napier is a good example where there's quite a few older houses I was just going to go down. So let's just go there. Let's say go to Clyde. Let's go there. Now it's going to be industrial, is it? Okay, so that's probably not a good example because what's happening right at that point, at that junction there, is it's sitting underneath. But it probably is a good example. It's a house that's more than likely built, 80 years ago, 70 to 80 years ago. That detail there that you see at the top where that window, so that's called the facings. So the facing of the window hits underneath this bit of timber at the top. That's not sitting in E2AS1, right? That detail is not there. So what if I wanted to do an extension here on this house out here and put in new windows? If I put those windows in as per the acceptable solution, it would look different. So I don't know. Let's just say that's, this is Napier. Let's just say that's $1.5 million, $2 million, okay? And you want to do an extension on this place. You want to be able to make sure it looks okay. So you want your argument to be, hey, I've got this whole building that uses a similar thing in a similar style. Why will you not let me do that extension looking the same? Okay. I want to take you to, so that's not the one. I'm wanting a timber weatherboard. Here we go. Yeah, right. So you can you see that little bit of steel? Okay, how that goes up underneath the weatherboard. That's not as per E2AS1. If you go to E2AS1, it's not like that. So that is an alternative solution. So they've obviously reclad, because you've got down underneath here the sill flashing. So they're wanting to get like a similar look to the existing property, but yeah, they haven't been able to achieve it. So they've used an alternative solution, and the council have agreed to it. Or here's what I've got down here. But yeah, so that's an example of alternative solution that you might be wondering what the heck was that word all about. Okay. And then this last one. I talked about F1. So F1, and we're not talking about the car racing, right? F1 building code was about the hazardous or bad ground quality. So when you think of this, can I get it over there? Yeah, this property here, which we were dealing with we're dealing with in Queenstown, the conversation that you're having in your mind is, is there any possibility that that land has been affected by things from growing in a market garden, that type of thing, or petrol or whatever. Okay, so this property you're looking at here, this is an Auckland Council regional park. All right, so my dad was with the New Zealand Navy. Okay, so when you go out here, so there is a big wharf right here. I'll open in maps. There we go. And it's a gorgeous place. I mean, look at that. It's a really nice place. Okay, so let's go there. It gives a better indication. All right, so out here is a wharf. Now that wharf was built by the Navy, the New Zealand Navy, right? And that was there to collect.
Excuse me, Kyle, we can't see it.
I can. It's an awesome photo. There we go. Sorry. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. It's a gorgeous beach, beautiful. If you ever get the chance in summer, go out there and have a look. So it's a gorgeous, and there's barbecues down here and stuff. And there used to be batches all the way along here back in the 1930s and 40s. Anyway, the Navy took over, right? And so my dad in the Navy, 1950s, would bring the frigate up to here, the ship, all right? And they would walk up here and they would get their dynamite out of this building here, okay? So the idea was that there was one part of the dynamite was here and the other part of the dynamite for the Navy, which is here, okay, was up in this harbour up here somewhere, probably Whenuapai, somewhere like that. So you would collect both parts of the dynamite and then you would there and then just go off from here to wherever he was going. So for example, if you've been to Rarotonga and you've been to Avarua and you've been to the harbour in Avarua, the New Zealand Navy blew up the whole entrance to the harbour, so as then the ships, bigger ships, were able to get into that. Dad did that in the 1950s on behalf of the New Zealand government. All right, so, okay, but the point being is this thing, all this land which you can see with these trees were put in place so as then if it did blow up, if there was this dynamite did blow up, then it wouldn't, the trees would protect it, protect the bomb, right? ICI, which is Dulux Paints, which is a British company, they owned or leased the site, and they were the ones that created the dynamite which sold to the Navy. So they leased this site, and they had this for years and years and years after the war, and only in the last 10 years they handed it back to Auckland Council, and it became the Waitawa Park, Regional Park. Auckland Council said, we don't want it back until you have totally cleaned any evidence of the dynamite, because of the hazardous in the ground, the poisons that are in the ground that could kill. If people are going to go there, we don't want them getting hurt. So that's an example of basically the ground being affected by something like a dynamite or so on. So in the context of every set of plans, so a lot of the questions and so on that have gone on in relation to this subdivision, and if I go to Jack's point, they would have to have gone through a process more than likely to prove that the ground is clean. So that whole, now it's going to show me. so that all that land and everything like that, and that future land, you're going to convert it into residential. Like, so then in the process of doing that, that's where the Resource Management Act comes in. That's where the district plan comes in. Prove evidence to us that actually, as per F1, as a code, we need to know that the ground is clean. We don't want any hassles or any problems. All right. So whoever this outfit is, that is the they did the structural plan, study of underlying natural and physical resources. Key outcome of that was to unify the 3 separate plans. Yes, so they more than likely had to do a whole lot of work in relation to quality of the ground and whether you can build on it and whether, yeah. So that's that, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, so stop sharing. And another one, I went on a Boynes, a trip, the Builders Officials Institute of New Zealand, to Metro Glass in Auckland. I'll show you. So give me a second. I know that you guys can't see that. So there's all these different windows and doors and the glass things there, glass types. And I was really amazed at how they go about checking glass structure. So let's see if we can find one of the things, Metro Glass videos. So it might be a bit of a marketing exercise on their part, but there's a process that they go through and in checking that the glass continually complies to the standard that they've created. NZS 3, they smash the glass. But just give me a second. We'll see what happens. Notice these little houses you guys were talking about. Trade tested is what I was trying to find the other day.
Renovating or designing a new home? Then you need to start with glass, but not all glass is the same. You need double glazing from Metro Performance Glass that's designed to perform in your home. That's so energy efficient, it allows larger windows that bring the outside in, creating a lighter, brighter, healthier home. Double glazing that will increase your well-being by letting in sun and energy to open and illuminate your home, while still protecting the things you love from harmful UVs. That will keep the cold out, the warmth in, keeping you warm, cool in summer, and your heating costs in check. Double glazing that will reduce loud, disturbing noises so you can get a comfortable, undisturbed night's sleep. And your home healthy by minimizing damp, unwanted moisture.
Yeah, so well. What they do is, yeah, so they actually have to check every bit of glass. So there is no glass in New Zealand at all that they don't buy treated glass from overseas. They buy all glass comes in its raw form. You look at it, it's glass, but it's not tensioned, it's not pressured glass and so on. There's a process that they go through to do that. And when I watched them and they showed us how to do, for example, your shower door has holes in it, for the fittings and so on, and it's got a shape cut out of it. So it's conventional glass that's not treated and not heated. And the guy comes and he cuts out the holes and he cuts out the template and everything. And then he puts in it's just like a little piece of paper. It's folded in a bit of cardboard, and he puts this sand on the glass. And then the glass and all of that run for that like shower area, it all goes into the kiln, 5,000 degrees, and in a matter of minutes this thing goes through and it comes out the other side, and like it melts the glass and it becomes incredibly brittle. So it goes from, when you've watched glass break in a normal circumstance, it breaks in all different, it's quite dangerous. Whereas this hardened glass that we're talking about, which you would have imagine you'd see on a car, it breaks into small pieces, right? So then what happens is he takes a sample of what he's just done, and it's no bigger than, you can't probably see it, but it's the size of my keyboard here, of glass. And then he takes a little square of cardboard on that bit of glass, and he then smashes it with a hammer. Now this is the standard. This is what the standard requires. Then he gets a white pen with a white marker, and he just basically counts how many squares that have been broken over that 3 inches or 2 inches square. Might have been actually 1 inch by 1 inch. That might be the reason. So he's got to have X amount of squares broken in that little area, and he marks them and then he writes it down. That's the quality assurance system to make sure the glass complies to the standard. So that shower door then is okay to move on to the next stage. Also, a window scenario, the double glazed windows, their test for it is like, it's an 80 to 90 kilo bag of like a boxing bag someone would use to box against, and it's just hooked off the ceiling in the factory, a rope, and the glass is standing there ready to be hit, and he just releases the 80 kilo bag, or however heavy the kilo bag is, and it just swings at a certain speed and hits the glass. And if it damages the glass, then that's not up to standard. So therefore they have to do it again. They have to try it. So they keep swinging, and they put a new one in. They might reheat the glass. They might do it all correctly, and then it complies to the New Zealand standard. Now, I don't know that when I'm a building inspector on the building site. You as a processor who receive the documentation, for example, for the final CCC, which says that the glazing certificate complies to NZS 4223, we only know that Metro Glass, for example, have a qualification and a system within their factory to make sure that it does. All right. So that is the acceptable way of doing it. Now imagine that next level is there could be circumstances where they might use an alternative solution on how to deal with it. That means that you know, I think I would have difficulty understanding someone who came to me and said, "Oh, F1 accept alternative solution." I'd have to go somewhere, and my boss would have to pay for someone to peer review basically the thinking, because we don't have the qualifications really to make those decisions. But yeah, okay, nice. So let's just go back. Okay, and okay, so I just go, I've got an F building code. I know we've done the range of F, but I think I may have created it differently. Just have a look. Okay, so that's Patrick's solution. We can quickly go through that. How many? Okay. Yeah, and with Patrick, he doesn't use notes. So basically what you see is what you got, ladies and gentlemen, and I've got to talk to it. And we've pretty much gone through the F code anyway, so I'm not going to dwell on it too much. You guys probably feel enough confidence with it. Where are we? Yep, cool. So what you're looking at there is that F1 sites shall be assessed to determine presence of potential. Yep, so F1, I talked about that. Waitawa, potency, toxicity of hazardous agents. Yep, I think it's really for our level, what we're dealing with, it's not really an issue. And in essence, a lot of the stuff gets pre-done even before we look at the consented plans, but just simply because of the resource consent stuff. Just say, you know, you're taking the Waitawa situation, you already had Auckland Council going, "Oh, fantastic. Thank you, ICI Dulux, for giving us this land back. But actually give it back to us in a way that's appropriate." So there's other agencies. So there's HAZNO, HAZNO, hazardous organisation. They basically sit within a council, so a bit like civil defence, and they look after these types of things. So when it comes to what we do, which is really building control and stuff like that, it's not really a big issue. What is this one? I don't know. What's he got there? Oh, safety from falling. it's a dude here. I don't think it's real. So yeah, just making sure safety from falling, right? Barriers, continuous, extended, full extent of hazard, appropriate height, constructed adequately, rigidity. Yep. I'm not gonna go into this. You guys can have a look at that if you want. That's yep. And now in here, this is something that you guys can do without me. So does anybody know where you would use an H1, what the H1 calculation would be about? You think of what H code? Can anybody think of the H code? It's sitting on the screen there anyway. You can see it. Energy efficiency and insulation. All right. So copy. So to learn more about it, I'm not going to get you. You can do it in your own time. I'll just drop that into the chat there. They do a really good job here Remember, you've more than likely got your account there to log in. Now I'll go back. Enter course. I'm not going to go there much, just open it for you. So go next. So there's a thing called an R value. The term R value is used to describe how well something is insulated, and this also is called a thermal resistance. So when you look at that in relation to these sets of plans here, there is a BATS or insulation that has an R rating in these walls. Okay, so see there, R 3.6 BATS, R 3.6, 2.8 for the house. So there's insulation in the ceiling and insulation in the walls. So what that article, or what they're talking about, so see here, 3.6 in the ceilings, and R2.8 insulation in the walls. So it restricts the heat from the outside, or the cold, especially Queenstown, the cold from the outside getting to the inside. All right. So that is when they're talking about resistance rating. So I'm not going to go on. You can just click on these and it just sort of explains stuff for you, but have a play around. And I got into that without having to log in, and there's 11 different little things that you can do. It's quite cool, but it sort of explains it. So there's a good thing there for you guys. So we talked about where we're at in the sense of what we're talking about, and we're talking about H code, H1 building code. So there's the different range. So I've finished at F codes. I haven't really done anything about the G codes. I think you're going to find about the G codes when we start talking about alpha, and we start talking about related, and that's related to bathrooms and stuff. So H code is to do with insulation. But yeah, I'm going to close that off, and you've got access to that in the chat. All right. So you guys can do with that this afternoon or any time, and it's just going to give you lots of background understanding of H1. Cool. Okay, so I'll go back to, where are we? Okay, let's just have a little bit. So what have we got? 11:02. So we've still got an hour. So what I want to do is we'll just go through this question exercise, match the correct description to the building code. We've talked a little bit about building codes, and we'll just help each other work through this. Okay. So looking at the screen, so we talked about B2 durability. We talked about the different life, 5 years, 15 years, and 50 years for B2 durability. Has anybody got any idea what the life would be for the tiling in the wet areas?
50 years?
15 years?
Yeah, so good question. So 50 years would be structure, something that's structural. And 15 years would be something that is difficult for you to get at. So I would say we're looking at 15 years. So I'm going to go 15 years. But in some, so just while you're on that subject, guys, let's just, I'll show you something here. We there was a period of time where we allowed on houses bracing in the bathrooms, but now we don't do bracing in bathrooms anymore because the bracing of a building is has to have a 50, last for 50 years. So there's a floor plan here, but I don't, maybe if I scroll down, might show us. So if Hubby turned up, and here's the plan here, and they turned up here to do, because every 5 years, technically, you're allowed to replace your bathroom without a consent every 5 years. Okay. So if there was bracing in the bathroom, Hubby might come along, because they don't have to have a consent, and I apologize for using them, but it's an example, and they might rip the brace off the wall. So the brace is a 50-year, it's got to last for 50 years. If they pull the brace off the wall, the house isn't braced. Okay, so that's why when you look at the set of plans, there's no evidence. That little number there that you see, that's a brace, but it's actually inside the cupboard, and it's on the other side of the wall, because there's the bathroom. And okay, and then you've got another brace here, and you've got another brace here, but there's nothing in this bathroom. So let's go down to the other bathroom and see if what we've got. So there's a bathroom there, but nothing. Again, same principle. Nothing in the shower, nothing on that back wall, but in the walk-in wardrobe, you've got yourself a brace along that wall, and you've got a brace along this wall, right? So again, look at this one here. There's a toilet there, sorry, and a bath and a vanity, but no bracing. Walk-in shower. There's bracing on this side in the kitchen, in the cupboard, but there's no bracing on this side of the wall. Okay. So that's that little thing that you got to just bear in mind, that no bracing in bathrooms. You just got to avoid it. You can do it, but it ends up being something like plywood bracing or villa board backed bracing or something like that, that really makes it incredibly difficult and hard for Hubby to rip off the wall. Okay, now they might still do it, and the reality is you and I would never know, because they're basically in there to strip everything out. But it is the very crux of the rules, that the moment the brace has been taken off, and that's what you can see there actually, that EP1, that's plywood. EP1 is a plywood brace. EP1 is a plywood brace. GS1, that's jib board standard, that's a jib board. Jib board standard, it's called nominal. Okay. So yeah, so there's a mixture of bracing in that house, but there's nothing in the bathrooms. So that's really cool. All right. So I'm saying to you that it's difficult to get to, and it's 15 years, but I'm not saying that I'm right, because I didn't write this. And this is the cool thing about this, is that you can do this and make a mistake. And what will happen is when we get to the end, it gives you the answer. Right? Okay. So the building regulations, are they mandatory or non-mandatory? Are you allowed to change them or are you not allowed to change them?
Mandatory.
And yeah, and yeah, I don't like this, having to answer this, but it's the main purposes and the principles of the Building Act. I mean, hello, how could you write? That's a lot of information there. Give me a second. The main purposes is, and the other interesting thing is you could write whatever you write there and it could be completely correct, but if it's not written in the same format that the person who wrote this is, it makes it really difficult. But I've got the Building Act here sitting on the computer. So has anybody got any, without me adding to it, has anybody got any ideas on
health and safety?
So let's go there. So there's your purposes. So how am I going to write and answer this effectively, really, do you think? You are correct, Tony, you are correct. It does. People who use buildings can do so safely without endangering. People have attributes, buildings have attributes that contribute appropriately to the physical well-being and the health. So that's the health thing again. People can escape if it's on fire. So how about I write something like buildings should be constructed for the healthy use of people. And so when you look at this, don't worry about the white. There's another paragraph and it's to do with, so I didn't include that. So that's, I might get it wrong. But down here, there's this one where it is to promote accountability among people. So I reckon that that's worthwhile writing. So buildings should be constructed for the healthy use of people. They should, the Act also helps create accountability of the people who conduct different associated functions. So that's the owner, that's the council, that's the builder. Yeah. So I'm not, rather than me writing all of those other things, just like that. So I think, I don't know, what do you think? The only one I really haven't put an emphasis on is sustainability, really, eh? Anything else you might add? Okay, let's have a look. Keep moving. Right, acceptable solutions.
Hey, Carl, where I can find this quiz?
Yep. Give me a second. I'll just go here. .401. Interactive course guide. Building consent. That one there. Okay, that one there. You got that? Cool. Right, I'll go back to where I was, hopefully. Yep, cool. Okay, so any ideas, ladies and gentlemen of the jury? Acceptable solutions. Are we allowed to change it? If we aren't happy with it, are we allowed to change it, or we're not allowed to change it? Is it something that has to be accepted or not?
I think we can change it.
Okay. Anybody else agree with that or disagree with that?
It's non-mandatory.
Non-mandatory. So, okay. All right. Let's see what happens. That's true, because you can go to alternative solution. You can go verification method. You can go to the acceptable solution. Yep. Okay. That's cool. Yep. Building Act 2004. Is that what you said, Ruby? Yep. Okay. Standards, New Zealand standards. So really, from the perspective, what you're thinking of is from a compliance pathway. If you were, if you saw some standards, would you agree that it was okay? And it's not required because you've got other alternatives, you've got other things. So I'm thinking it's non-mandatory, right? It's not set in concrete. You've got a whole lot of options available to you. Question is, do you want your job delayed or not? And then that's the other interesting thing. So going back, before you had standards, but in this situation, it's a cited standard. So what that means there is it's written into the code. So you can't change that, right? So B1, AS1, the solution for housing, framed houses, NZS 3604 2011. If you want to go build a block house, NZS 4229. If you want to go and build a steel framed house, it is the Nash building guide. All right, so things like that. So that's why I would think that it's mandatory. You pretty much can't change that. Okay. Okay. Verification methods.
Non-mandatory.
Yep. So you've got options, haven't you? Acceptable solutions. Yep. Okay. Under stability, match the building code title. So let's just have a look here. All right. So B1, what? Yep. I see your lips moving. Structure. Yep. Perfect. Okay. And then B2.
Durability.
Durability. Yes. Go to the top of the class. Okay. Right, so A1 classified uses, select one, housing, communal, non-residential, commercial, industrial, or is it set A1 classified uses sets levels to describe the risk for C1, or is it the building code provides a list of defined words for interpretation?
I think the first one.
You're right. It is the first one. Yep. So those other two are the, let's have a look. Oh, yeah. Okay. So let's go. Right. So then answer saved. Then you go press submit and finish. And then what happens down here is it tells you, yes, it's correct. 15 years. Yes, it's correct. Oh, what's happened here? See, that's why I don't like it. See that there versus that there. How do I know that? So I would not don't you guys stress out about it. The point being is the only thing we didn't say there is probably that part there. Yeah, so to say that you didn't get it right doesn't really matter, because when I'm creating these question answer exercises, I avoid this, because there's no way you can get it exactly the same as the person who designed it. It's just too difficult. All right. So I often go multi-choice question answer exercise because it's a lot easier for you to work out. So that's what's happening there. Yep, correct. And what's this? Cited standards. Your answer is correct. The correct answer is non-mandatory. Oh, interesting. Okay. Okay, and yep, you're right there, and you're right there. Perfect. Oh, man, what a fantastic team. So let's have a look at this. This is to get to classified uses. So I'll just have a look. I'll show you. Are we there? There. Okay, and we'll go to there. And then it's just getting this when you as a student or a staff member, sorry, as a homeowner or an agent are checking. We've discussed this one before. Construction of a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom kitchen attached 2-bedroom unit, right? So you're getting the right classified use for the job. That's what the sort of getting an understanding of this is all about. So it's side notes. It's really just to support basically what we're doing. All right. So the New Zealand Building Code A1 classifies buildings in various types. Okay. At the time, C1, AS1, the acceptable solution for fire, group buildings, risk categories to guide the design and implementation of fire systems. And this is a comparison how each classification under A1 corresponds. So let's have a look. So you've got these, and we discussed this yesterday, actually. I showed you that. So I'm not going to bore you with something that you guys have already seen. Yep. So that's just a new way of looking at it. Yep. And then, yep. And I talked about the different levels, the critical structures, the high level structures, the low risk structures. That's basically what's going on in this. Yeah, structural requirements for hospitals. Hospitals are level 4, must remain functional after a major ice earthquake. Yep. Yeah, and then this here is the standard that is often used, NZS 1170. So what I might do is, yeah, so I think that this is probably stuff that you guys already know about, and it's not really too big an issue. Yeah. So okay, so let's just struggle with it, because actually the next lot is a whole lot of it's quite a cool little question answer exercise that we do. So let's go here. So single residential, right? You're looking at that building there, single residence, quite weird shape, but it's a single residential, and it's got that number, detached dwellings. It's got importance level of 2. It's got a single sleeping home. It's residential 2. Okay. And then there's that It's got the lower level risk when it comes to the thing called the risk matrix. Okay, and then here, buildings with sleeping residential and outbuildings. All right, so that's single residential. All right, then multi-units residential townhouse. Okay, applies to buildings that contain more than one separate household or family attached dwelling. Yep, so it has an importance level. Typical commercial, residential, and industrial buildings, and sleeping residential SR. And Res 3, the risk sees going up. Okay, and it's the risk matrix. So in E2AS1 is a thing called the risk matrix. And so as I discussed with you the other day, based on the increase of the width of the soffit and the height of the building and the junction of the roof, the multiplication of extra claddings and everything that's on the build. Okay, and sleeping. Right, multi-unit dwelling. So like a bit of a retirement village or something, isn't it? So it applies to buildings. Okay, importance level 2, SR, sleeping residential, commercial 2 from the perspective of competency. It's got less than 500 people. Okay, low rise, and commercial 3 as well. So industrial communal, 4 stories, occupancy load of at least 500 people. Yeah, so Auckland University accommodation, that's what that is there, right? Community service applies to residential building, limited boarding house, hall of residence, hotel, retirement village, work camp, okay? And the same rules based on importance 2 level, all right? Normal risk to human life, normal human cost should the building fail, typical residential, commercial, industrial, and then it's a COM3, commercial 3. Industrial buildings, non-residential, less, right? So again, I've said to you before, anybody that is assessing something like this, they're not someone like they've got to be at least 5 to 6 years of working at council before they even get to look at the Auckland University student accommodation processing and plans. All right. Okay. Retirement village. Okay. Right. So what is a retirement village? Okay. Basically applies to buildings, a large degree of unrestrained use. Examples, people's restrained, physical constrained, Borstal, drug rehabilitation, old people's home where substantial care is required, maybe a prison, maybe a hospital. Okay, same importance levels before, commercial 2, commercial 3, right? Now a hospital, right, getting really higher level, importance level 4, post-disaster recovery, commercial 3, same thing. And then what do we got? Hospitals, care institutions for children and people with disabilities, and care for detention. And industrial. So industrial buildings, extracting of or converting natural resources, producing goods, energy, repairing goods, storing goods. Okay, importance level 2, so it's not a really high importance level. It's just an industrial building out in the burbs. Working higher spaces used for working, high fire load, slow to medium or fast fire growth rates. C1. And movie theaters. Sports level 3. buildings of high level of societal benefit, higher levels of risk significant the buildings have increased performance requirements because they have large numbers of people, vulnerable populations, okay, and crowd large, cinemas, movie theatres, schools, tertiary education, nightclubs, restaurants, probably us. That's what we are from the perspective of what we're supposed to provide at Future Skills. C2, C3, both been those before, and their CA, public access and educational facilities. And that's it. So let's just go back over to here. And then right, so now, what are these? This is ancillary buildings. Applies to a building code or a use not for human habitation, which may be exempted from amenity provisions, meaning like bathrooms and toilets and hospitals, I think, wash basins, but which are required to comply with structural and safety related aspects of the building code. So looking at the screen, team, you tell me what you think might be an ancillary building. Now, if you want to follow along with this, you can go to the A1 building code, and it will have the specific actual items that you're looking at on the screen, and that will help you answer. So if you want to go to building.govt.nz and then go into the A1 classified uses tab, open it up, and it'll give you basically, you can help me answer these questions. Right, anybody got any answers? What is an ancillary building based on these photos? None of them? Any ideas, team?
What does ancillary means?
Yep. What does ancillary mean? So have you opened up A1 building code?
Yes.
Yeah. And what does it say? Applies to a building or a use not for. Okay, so let's go. While I'm on the screen here, and it's a really good question that you've asked. I'll show you something. So we go to building.govt.nz, and I said go to A1, but to answer the question, so you've got A1 building provisions there, all right, but go to interpretation, and we should be able to, so we go to the clause interpretation, and I should be able to answer your question. So LMN, ancillary. It's not going to do that for me. So my interpretation of an ancillary building is something like a building that is going to, it's like a machinery building. You might have like a swimming pool machine inside the building. It might be something where the lawnmowers are parked or something like that. You know, something that is not designed, see here, for human habitation. So an ancillary building is always something that's separate from the house, and it's got machinery and stuff like that. But the answers to what you're asking is actually should be in the list there that explains what the classified uses are. So anybody able to look at these photos and tell me which ones do I click on?
Garage.
The garage.
Is it a police one?
A pole.
Sorry, I
This one
can't
here?
really see. The screen is quite small. So is it the
Yeah.
building that says
And,
police?
Farm.
So that's that. Okay, I'll get rid
Farm.
of my look. I'll get my picture off it. So I'll get content only.
Oh, yeah, that's
All
much better.
Yeah. Okay. So someone said, "Oh, the barn." Okay. So
And
so
the
just
bridge?
the fence. This fence over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the wharf.
The bridge? Yeah. Oh,
the
yeah.
bridge.
Yeah. How do
The
you call
wharf.
this?
Wharf.
Wharf.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, someone said the bench. So is there? And so someone was talking about what this pole here, or is that a power pole, or and that there's a gas that's for drilling oil.
Yeah.
So what do you reckon?
I think the green one. I'm not too
The
sure.
green one?
Yeah,
so
I think it looks
that's
like a wind energy thing.
yeah. Okay. So should we just check?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got 1 out of 7. So let's show the solution. Okay. So I haven't got the A1 classified open, right? I haven't got the book open because I was hoping that you could have it open. So you should have outdoor fireplaces. It's written in there. You've got retaining wall. It's got written in there. You've got and we've got these right. Yep. That is the wharf, the fence, and like that there. But also there must be tunnels in there, and there must be something to do with fire. So I'm going to do myself a favor, and I'm going to actually open it up. All right, because I thought that I could, so we can keep this thing moving. So A1 classified uses. Okay, and then just go into this one here. Read the clause, right? So you can see when I'm looking at the clause, what happens is it's got this examples, right? So when I designed this little exercise, this exercise, I went down into here and I got pictures that relate to that. Okay. So let's just so I'll get rid of that one there. Let's just keep moving. And what I'll do is I will go over here so you guys can't see what I'm doing on that screen. So let's go to, now retry. I'm going to go retry. So we've got that one, that one, that one, that one. Okay, so just out of interest, I'm going to go over to my left-hand side here, ancillary. In the word ancillary, in the classified uses, here's the words. Examples: a bridge, a derrick. I think that might be a derrick. Okay. I don't know. Anyway, a fence, a freestanding outdoor fireplace, a jetty, okay, a wharf, a jetty, all right, a mast, that's the mast, a path, didn't put a path in there, a platform, didn't put a platform in there, retaining wall, yes. A tank, oh yeah, a tunnel, or a dam. Okay, so those are all items that are deemed to be ancillary. Okay, so based on that, I'm going to do it again. All right, I remember we had the retaining wall, didn't we? Now we had I'm going to go with that as a derrick. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with the fence, and we're going to go with the jetty. That's it. Okay, let's see what happens. Hey, which one did I miss? Oh, that one. Okay.
The tunnel, I think.
Yeah, the tunnel. Do it again. That's all. Okay, let's see again. Check. Yes. Thank goodness. Okay. Okay, and then back to course on the left-hand side there. Right, so that's related to ancillary. Okay, so we go to number 7. Okay, what is this one about? Oh, this one's about outbuildings. Okay, 7, outbuildings. Applies to a building which may be included within each classified use, but not intended for human habitation, and are accessory to the principal use of the associated buildings. So what you're looking at on the screen is some items, some buildings that are called outbuildings that are inside classified use. Anybody got any ideas? Looking back at the classified uses document under the examples.
Carport.
Carport. So that looks like a carport, doesn't it? All right. Yes. Anybody else?
All of them except the last two. Last one.
Okay. I would call that a farm building. Okay. I would call that garage. I'd call that a greenhouse. I would call, I don't know. Do we call that a machinery room? Okay. Definitely a swimming pool and a public toilet. And okay, shed. Yeah. So just while you're on, have you ever heard of Shark Week? You know,
no.
Discovery Channel. Shark Week. It's a very famous. So Discovery Channel, that's in that building. That is the fin of the shark. That's the head of the shark. And they are in Dallas or Georgia or Atlanta, but they're the company that owns TV3. They bought TV3, and basically they have this thing called Shark Week. So that's their head office in Atlanta or wherever it is in America. So I thought that was a pretty cute building. Anyway. Yep. Okay. Which one did I miss? Oh, show solution. Ah, okay. Yep. Fine. All right. World's not going to end. Okay. So then you've got 5. And 5 is commercial buildings. Okay. It applies to a building or a use which any natural resources, goods, services, or money are either developed, sold, exchanged, or stored. All right, so natural resources, goods, services, money sold, exchanged, or stored. Okay, do you think a police station might be a place where natural resources and goods and services or money are developed or sold? It's interesting.
I think bank would be.
The bank, yep. That's
Yeah,
one
the
there.
bank should
Yep.
be.
Yep.
So Rainbow End?
Rainbow's End.
Rainbow's
yes.
End?
Yeah. Now, it talked about television station. It says television station here, and that's what that is, which I just discussed. Discovery Channel. So I'm going to go with that. Yeah,
I can't really see what's the flat one on the third picture. I can't really
this
see
one
the
here.
words. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a church.
Oh, church.
Now, but I've got nothing there. So, okay, we've got an amusement. This is the wording: an amusement park, an auction room.
Yeah.
That's Harcourt's there. An auction. Oh, and of course, look, when I do it, in some instances, it should highlight. See how it highlights up?
Yeah.
And so that is not one. Okay, so that there's not one. All right. That's a hospital. All right. So coffee bar, catering facility, computer center, fire station, funeral parlor, hairdresser, library, office, police station. Okay, so that's one, police station. Public laundry, radio station, service station, shop, showroom, storage facility, television station, transport terminal. So interesting, you know how I said that's a church, but above the church and beside the church is a shop and a coffee bar. So there is joint classified uses. There is joint uses for the same building. And so you might find that. So for example, let's say Discovery Channel, you might go in there and have a shop that's selling, their stuff. So, but yeah, you just got to keep that in mind, that when you're dealing with residential, it's really easy. It's like people live in it and that's it. But when you start to get into commercial, that's why, of course, it takes a few more years before you get to actually assess jobs, that they have a whole lot of different uses, not just what you think they are. Cool, man. 5 out of 5. Go to the top of the class, you guys. Whew. Right, and then 403. Okay. So it applies to a building or a use where a large degree of service is provided. Now I realize that I've actually got, see here, I've got the answers right there. Right, so early childhood, that looks like early childhood, happy baby there. And of course, when you hover over it, sometimes it comes up. That there is that there's prison. Right, but there's nothing about prison in here, is there? College, daycare, centre for handicap. So that one there, that's what they call sheltered workshops, right? So these people make these chairs. Okay. College, that's my old college, Howard College. Okay. That's my university at the moment, Otago Polytech. Right. And that is Auckland Hospital. So a large degree of care and service. early childhood care centre, college, daycare, handicap, kindergarten. Okay, that's what they say. Let's have a look. Oh, thank goodness. Yes, I don't.
Sorry, Carl, for that question,
Yeah.
4.03.
Yeah.
How come that Auckland University, that thingy, oh, that's hospital. How come that, oh, no, it's okay. No, it's hospital.
Oh, okay. No problems.
Never mind.
Right now, and of course I've done the same again. You've got the answers there. Okay, applies to a building or use of a meeting place for which people care are provided by people other than the principal users. These two types. Okay, so there's two types. 4.02 is assembly, applies to buildings or uses where limited care and service is provided. You could have a church, you could have a cinema, you could have club rooms, hall, museum, public swimming pool, assembly house, a whare runanga, stadium and theatre. So let's have a look. I think that one there is definitely a cinema. That's where I'll be going to see Gladiator in the next couple of days. Now, where else have we got here? We've got a club room. No. What about a hall? What's that one? That's a church, is it? It's a church, so we'll go with that one. So cinema and theatre, I call it the same thing. But that's a house. Public swimming pool, hospital. Does it talk about hospital? No. Does it talk about, oh, that one there, assembly house. I think that might be it, dudes. That's a hospital. That's a single home. That's a daycare centre. Okay, check. Yep, sweet. Let's go. So let's go to COM3. So remember, we're talking about classified uses. Now we're talking about how there's this thing called the National Certificate in, the assessment on your competency, National Competency Assessment System. So COM3, Commercial 3. And so what do you think might be on the screen there, a Commercial 3 job? Any ideas?
Is it the complicated, the shock one, the discovery one? Is it considered as country? Commercial, right?
Yeah, so
Commercial
pretty
buildings.
much, yeah, commercial buildings, and is the highest level that you can think of.
Yeah.
Right, so national, and it's unfair. So what I'm going to do for you, ladies and gentlemen, is we're going to have the book open. So then we can, there we go. And I will also make sure I'll drop it in where it comes from. All right, copy. So you guys do need to know about this. Haven't discussed it in any depth. And of course, it has no relationship whatsoever to your function as a vetting staff member. But if you had the interest in becoming a council staff person, then you could. All right. So now, so we've only got 7 minutes, really basic, but I don't want to freak you out. But you've got these levels here, and then you've got the associated. So you can see the word residential 1, right? Levels of competency. on what a person does when they're looking at jobs for council. So we're talking about commercial 3. So I scroll all the way down through to here. So Sky Tower. So all uses of buildings that are over 4 stories high and contain over 500 occupants, and SC or SD greater than single story. So you've got high-rise buildings in excess of 4 stories. Well, the Sky Tower's 280 square meters or 300 and something square meters, isn't it? You've got a high-rise building, 4 stories with more than 500 occupants. That used to be called the ANZ Tower in Queen Street. All right. And then, of course, this one here is the Te Papa, right? Commercial building in excess of 4 stories with over 500 applicants. So just keeping that in mind for this question about commercial. So there's going to be, that one there's going to be correct, being a COM3. That's going to have 500 occupants, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The hospital's going to have 500 occupants. I suppose Otago Polytech, yes, that's going to be commercial. I mean, it's a range of things. It's not really a good picture. I don't think a retirement village, industrial building, wharf or a jetty, single dwelling, toilet, or sheltered workshops. I don't think those, right? So commercial buildings in excess of 4 stories with more, because they aren't 4 stories, are they? At all. So that's another out. So they might be, yeah, it'll be interesting. So let's have a look, see if I've got it correct. 4 out of 7. So show solution. Okay. So maybe it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5 stories. Why here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Okay. So I got those wrong in the sense that it's probably based on the fact that there's more than 500 people and it's over 4 stories. In excess of 500 of 4 stories and has more than 500 occupants. Yeah. Okay, so that would be the justification. It's the occupancy and the height of the building. Cool. Okay. So let's go commercial 2. Okay, now coming back, I'll bring this back over here for you to see. What do we mean when we're talking about commercial 2? Commercial 2 is industrial, commercial, communal, residential, non-residential buildings equal to or less than 4 stories and an occupancy of equal or less than 500 people. Okay, so 2-story movie theater, less than 500. A 4-story commercial building with less than 500. And a 4-story commercial mixed-use building. So shops down here, apartments upstairs. So 4 stories. So really the key is 4 stories and less, isn't it? So I think that's what the key, what you guys should be looking at. Let's have a quick look. All right. So that's more than 4 stories, isn't it? No. Oh, that one's given because that was in the picture. That was pretty easy. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, yes, I've got it written on there anyway. Yep. What's this one? Movie theatre. Yep. 2-story movie theatre. And a bank, no. Rainbow's End, no. And not that. So I reckon it's that one, and that one. Yes. Sweet. Cool. Okay, so that's really so you guys are welcome. You have got the link in the chat to continue to just learn more about those classified uses and the commercial, the NCAS, the National Accreditation or Assessment System. So that's what that's about there, guys. Okay, so you click on this button up, closes, click on that button up. All right, so it's all there just to support your learning and give you a bit more background. But yep, so we're all okay for Monday back at Takapuna as much as possible, as many as people can be there. Yep.
Yep.
Awesome. No problems. Sounds great. I will see you there.
Thank you, Kyle.
All right, guys. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Kyle.
Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.